popular JavaScript front-end frameworks. Companies like Netflix, Asana, Facebook, and Airbnb use React to increase their performance, and it has a variety of different applications, from building beautiful user interfaces to single-page web applications and complex web interfaces. The beauty of React is that it's fun and easy to use because it's designed around components. So rather than worrying about a full web application all at once, React allows you to break down complex user interfaces into simpler components. You started your journey into a skill set that is in high demand all over the world. Well, hello and welcome to our very first lesson in the React.js, that's the React JavaScript course. Before we dive in, here's a quick fun fact for you. Did you know that React was created by Facebook to build user interfaces, or UIs? On the front end, it has become one of the most popular frameworks because of its simplicity and flexibility. An obvious starting point is to understand precisely what React is. React is a JavaScript library for building user interfaces. The latest version of React is React 16.13.1. We would recommend that you use the latest version as it's a maintained version. This means that you will always be working with the most refined version that's supported and updated by Facebook. One of the most significant aspects of React is the fact that you can create components, which are at the heart of every React application. Components are custom, reusable HTML elements to rapidly and effectively build user interfaces. React also streamlines how data is stored and handled using state and props variables. Now, there are a few ways to set up a React application. In this course, we will learn the easiest and most efficient way to do that. The biggest benefit of React.js is the fact that it's a user interface library instead of a full framework. This means that it can be used like a web framework, particularly if you choose to include a few other packages in a project. Other benefits include that React is used and maintained by a large community, so you'll have a lot of support when you run into problems on your own code. React is pretty flexible because it allows you to break user interfaces into individual components. React's unidirectional data flow makes updating a user interface predictable and reliable. Because all the data that changes during the lifecycle is kept in a single state code for building, the user interfaces can be intuitive and easy to understand. Here's another quick fact for you. Did you know that there are 8,933 companies reportedly using React in their tech stacks, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Amazon, Uber, and Netflix? As you can see in this graph from the Node Package Manager website, a survey was done to determine the most downloaded package, and React was found to be way ahead of Angular and Vue. If you look at any information on React, you'll soon see that because React is a JavaScript library, they'll say that there is no way around learning React without JavaScript, or without knowing something about programming in the JavaScript language. But don't worry, because in this course we're going to teach you exactly what you need to know about JavaScript before we jump into building React applications. JavaScript is a high-level, dynamic, interpreted programming language that is well suited to object-oriented and functional programming styles. Basically, JavaScript is the programming language of the web because it's the tool that makes web pages come alive. Do you know why JavaScript is called JavaScript? Well, when JavaScript was first created in 1995, it was initially called LiveScript, but Java was a very popular programming language at that time, so it was decided that positioning a new language as a younger brother of Java would help. But as it evolved, JavaScript became a fully independent language with its own specification called ECMAScript, and now it has no relation to Java at all. Let's talk a bit more about ECMAScript. So the standardized version of JavaScript is called ECMAScript, but in practice everyone just calls the language JavaScript. The abbreviation ES refers to the language standard and to the version of that standard. And also, a new version of ECMAScript is released every single year. A web browser was the original host environment for any JavaScript code, and it's still the most common execution environment. The web browser environment allows JavaScript code to obtain input from the user's mouse and keyboard by making HTTP requests. For those that don't know, that's Hypertext Transfer Protocol Requests, HTTP. And it allows JavaScript code to display output to the user with hypertext markup language, HTML, and cascading style sheets, CSS. For those who may not already know, HTML is the standard markup language for documents designed to be displayed in a web browser. It is often assisted by CSS, which is a style sheet language used for describing the presentation of a document written in a markup language such as HTML. Coming up in our next lesson, we will be looking at JavaScript data types and variables. This lesson will introduce you to the basic JavaScript data types, and we will also discuss variables and the important use cases of them in JavaScript. Lastly, other basic JavaScript syntax, such as how to write comments in JavaScript programming language, will be explored. Let's move on to creating an application in JS, the last part of today's lesson. We're going to be using a demo here. In this demo, you will learn how to install the IDE, or the Integrated Development Environment, which is the environment that we will use to write our code. Think of it as a text editor for your code. Our first lesson demonstration will show you how to create your first JavaScript application, a Hello World program. This is often the first program that's written by people learning to code, because it's a very simple program that introduces the basic syntax of programming language. Hello everyone, and welcome to the very first practical session in this course. In this demo, I'm going to show you how to install Visual Studio Code on your machine. Visual Studio Code is a code editor redefined and optimized for building and debugging modern web and cloud applications. Visual Studio Code is also free and available on all your favorite platforms, from Linux, Mac, and even Windows. Now, the reason why I use Visual Studio Code is because it's very simple to use, and there are some really good extensions that we can use to make our lives super easy. To start the installation of Visual Studio Code, simply search on Google for Visual Studio Code, and hopefully the very first link that appears will be in form of code.visualstudio.com. So I'm going to click on this link, and you will see this option, which says Download for Windows. However, if you click on this button, alongside the Download for Windows option, you will see Windows 64-bit option beside Mac and Linux. And this is the link that I'm going to select. So I'll just click on it. And now it will install the installer for Windows for us. Bear in mind the download will start automatically, and the file will be an executable file. It might take some time, based on your internet speed that you're using. And once the download is completed, open up the folder where the file is saved, and then double-click on Visual Studio Code User Setup. And this new message will pop up. And I will start by accepting the agreement and then click Next. I will then leave the default location and press Next again. And I will also keep the same default name and once again press Next. Cool. So now I want to create a desktop icon. So I will check this checkbox and then click Next and then click on Install. And this will start the installation process. And obviously once the installation is complete, I will just press on Finish. And this will launch a new window of Visual Studio Code for us. Now I want to show you some extensions that I've already installed on my Visual Studio Code. Extensions are the features that Visual Studio Code includes out of the box to let you do things like languages and debuggers and tools for your installation to support your development workflow. Okay, so to install the extensions, just go to the extension tab over here, and the first extension is called Live Server. So just type Live Server into the search bar, and the first option, just simply click Install on the first option. Live Server is the local development server with live reload features for static and dynamic pages. The second extension is called Prettier Code Formatter. Prettier Code Formatter. It enforces a consistent style by parsing your code and reprinting it with its own set of rules that take the maximum line length into account, and also wrapping your code when necessary. This process is known as wrapping. So again, just type Prettier and you will find the install button instead of uninstall. And that's because I have already downloaded it before. And after you've installed it, go down here to this button and you will find Settings. Just click on Settings. And over here you can search for something called editor.format on save. Aha, this one. And make sure the format on save is true. So every time you save and click on Ctrl+S, it is going to format everything automatically. But let's close this down and go back to the File and Folder Explorer. Alright, so now we've set up our environment. So to demonstrate how JavaScript works and how we can add it to an HTML file, first let's create a new folder. Let's go to our folder location. I'm going to use my desktop and create a new folder by pressing right-click, New Folder, and I'm going to name it Hello World, and then hit Enter. And then I will go back to Visual Studio Code, and I will open that folder by going to the File tab over here. Let's just maximize this. So I'll go to the File tab and then Open Folder. And obviously my Hello World folder is here. I will select the folder, and this will open up Hello World folder in Visual Studio Code. I will then create the first file inside the Hello World folder by selecting this new file. Let me just first close down the welcome screen. And I'm going to name it index.html and then hit Enter. To create boilerplate of HTML code, just press Shift and 1 at the same time, and this will give you an exclamation mark. Just hit Enter and this will create an HTML boilerplate. The first line here is a document typed, and this tells the browser when it opens up this file what version of HTML this file is. And in this case, we are working with the latest version of HTML, which is HTML5. The second line is an HTML tag, and this tells the browser to treat everything inside the opening and closing tags as an HTML code. So all of these will be treated as HTML code. It consists of a head and a body. So the head is holding the information, or the metadata, of the web page, and how the browser will handle the page. An example of this information is the title. So here our title is a default title called document. And then let's change this by giving it any name, like personal website. Right, so the way that we render elements of HTML to the screen is by writing an HTML element inside the body tag. This is the part of the HTML file responsible for rendering things to the screen. I'm going to create an h1 tag and pass a welcome to the web page. I will save this by going to File, then Save, or simply you can just press Ctrl S on Windows and Command S on Mac. To open this file in a browser, just right-click in the file name and then Open with Live Server. And this will open up a new web browser page. And it will show what we've just written in our body tag. So welcome to the web. So now let's go back to the Visual Studio Code and see how we can write JavaScript inside HTML file. To do that, it's very simple. Just before closing the tag of the body, write script tag, and inside the script tag you can write any JavaScript code that you want. So let's create an alert function to render hello world to the screen. Alert, open parentheses, and then type hello world. If you save this and open the same browser, you will find what is rendered to the screen. Simply close by pressing OK. And here is our welcome to the web, H1, that we've created. The recommended way of putting JavaScript code into your project is by creating a separate file for the whole JavaScript code. And the reason that we do this is because when your code is getting really big, it will be hard to work with HTML and CSS and JavaScript all in the same file. So it's just better to put each one in a separate file. So instead of doing this, let's delete the alert function and then create a new file inside the Hello World folder by pressing New File. And I'm going to call it app.js and then just hit Enter. Then here, let's create the same alert function. And also render the same things. Hello world. And then save the file using Ctrl S. Then go back to index the HTML. And inside the script tag, you can write the source that we are going to use for our JavaScript code. We use src attribute to determine that file's location. Simply just type rsc equals and open quotation, and then write app.js. Save this file, and then open up the same browser page, and let's close this first. And again, refresh, and you will see the Hello World alert rendered to the screen. Yeah, so this is the best way to write JavaScript with an HTML file. Well, we did it. That's it for this tutorial, and in the next session we will see more features of JavaScript. And I will see you all a bit later.